Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
We are so blessed to live in the United States of America. Yes, we have our problems and negatives, but above all others, we Americans live in the best country in the world. Please, let's stop this madness. Here comes Kate Smith, and God Bless America, followed by a patriot. A patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance this morning. Good morning to you. And a good morning to you on this Wednesday, June the 3rd. Thank you, Kate Smith. And, of course, a beautiful day outside so far. And we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with a safe, clean environment and the best in tires. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, that was very well done. Please call back in a few minutes, my old friend. Thank you so much.
Old?
My friend. Okay, thank you. Time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental. Hello, Roger and the crew. They get there early in the morning at 7 a.m., throw the doors open and say, come on in, world, for the best tools and equipment on a rental basis, both long and short term. They've got it all. I mean, when it all is said, I mean their front yard just full of equipment. And then, of course, all the lawn equipment, all the garden equipment, everything, the rototillers, everything is there. You better check it out today. Absolutely. If you got questions, please don't hesitate. Give them a call, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine going to stick with us for the rest of the week, but maybe some rain showers by this weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Today, mostly sunny skies, looking at a high of 85, a little bit of a breeze. Out of the west at about 10 miles an hour, gusts as high as 23 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly clear skies with a low of about 55. Winds are going to be consistent out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 83 with an overnight low of 54. Friday, mostly sunny skies, high of 90. Now, by Friday night, it looks like a storm is going to be rolling in, bringing along with it some rain showers, thunderstorms, and we are expecting a low of 56 by Saturday and Sunday. This is where the rain is going to come in. About a 70% chance of rain showers throughout the weekend. We are expecting highs in the low 70s. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And, of course, the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them, and they're there to serve you. 678-3122, K&R Rental. 63 degrees currently outside the Zeb at the Ranch studio. And I also want to take just a moment quickly to remind everybody about our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They also get there early in the morning to serve you for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. When you talk about a business that has been serving this area for almost 7 decades, you're talking about somebody that really does the best job of anyone. Their staff, the knowledge, the experience, all of this and more at Ramsey Heating and Electric. So don't forget, for any questions, please give them a call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Ted.
Yes, sir.
It's nice to hear your voice again.
Well, thank you.
You know, last night I was watching the news, and it showed a picture of this guy tearing down a street sign, you know, defining which crossroad this was and that and the other. And he worked at it for several minutes, tearing it down. What in the world does that have to do with this other person's death?
Well, absolutely nothing. And, you know, they spend so much time and effort in a choreographed destruction of America. Now, the reason I said choreographed is because it's all implemented and happens with the use of organizers on cell phones and people that are directed to go do certain things. Go to this street, riot, loot, burn. Go to this street, take this apart. Go to this street, keep the police at bay. All of this is organized by a bunch of very low-life vermin that are bent on the destruction and absolute decay of America.
Yeah, and nobody did anything except cheer him on.
You know, I don't understand, Keith. Keith, you just celebrated a birthday, and you and I are both getting a little gray on top and long in the tooth, but I just do not understand why, after 8 nights of destruction, 8 nights of burning, 8 nights of stealing, and just absolutely drunken revelry by these people, knowing they can get away with it, why? Why haven't we put the cap back in the bottle? A few heads might roll, but it's got to happen, Keith. This cannot continue.
What was the purpose of it? I mean, it's just a sign. They put up a green light sign saying, destroy all you can. There'll be no consequences. They just will put it out because that's the way it is.
I'm going to be asking a question in a moment, and I want the audience out there to respond and give me their answers. But we're going to get into that in just a minute. Keith, thank you so much for breaking the ice this morning. I appreciate it.
You go for it, Tiger.
All right. Thank you very much, Keith. Appreciate it. In just a second, I want to pose a question to you, and I want you to give me your response as to what we're going to do in the future. And I'll pose that to you in just a moment. I want to remind you about our friends at Dino Septic Service. Oh, when it comes to doing a job that you and I do not want to... By the way, Sean, if at all possible, if you could boost a little bit of the feed line to me, I'd appreciate it. I know there's a little problem over there, but a little bit would help if you would. Dino Septic Service, of course, the telephone number to call, 436-6526 or 678-1638 for the best of fast, fair, friendly service when it comes to septic tank pumping and liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaning. All of this and more, backhoe service, they're the best at what they do in serving you. We've had them over here on a couple of occasions. They are good. They pull in the yard with a big truck that says smells cargo on the way to serve you. Dino Septic Service. Get a hold of them today. Also, I want to remind you there's going to be another Bennett Boys auction coming up this weekend, and it's going to be on Saturday right over in the Rupert area at 275 North, 579 East. It's the Shoemaker Estate Sale, and it's going to be Saturday at 11 o'clock, managed by the Bennett Boys Auction Service. And look for the signs. They're going to have tractors, loaders, farm equipment, trailers, all kinds of items, and I urge you to be there at 11 o'clock on this Saturday. Yes, exit 216, travel north from the Phillips 66 service station on 200 East for 3 miles to Baseline Road. Turn east on Baseline for 2 miles to 400 East, then go north, holy smokes, and then go 3 miles to 300 North. Then turn east on 300 North and go approximately 2 miles. Woo! Watch for the auction signs. They'll tell you where to go. Bennett Boys Auction Service this Saturday, the Shoemaker Estate Sale. No sale too big, no sale too small. The Bennett Boys, they sell them all. It's crackling. Sean, we are getting calls that it's the service is not doing the best job and we're having a crackling sensation on the air. Are you hearing that? Sean, are you hearing me? And evidently not. I don't know whether we're still on the air or not.
I'm hearing you. Sorry, I was on the phone with someone else.
We're getting reports called in that we're having a crackling noise on the air. Are you hearing that?
It has nothing to do with us or as far as in the studio. It's the transmitter. We're still having transmitter issues. There's really nothing I can do about it.
Well, I tell you what, let's do. If it gets really severe and we're not putting forth a product that's understandable, let me know, and then we'll have to curtail it. But I know the transmitter still causing problems, but hopefully we can get through the problem this morning and keep the program on the air. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The question I want to ask is this, and Deanne, if you'd come back in here for a second, I'd appreciate it, is there is going to be a line drawn in the sand for the future. How is it now? Still crackling quite a bit? Thank you. And the question I have is, when it comes to arresting and or having to get into a melee with our police in various circumstances, our police are going to be under the scrutiny of the entire United States. It's better? Okay, thank you very much. And if a crime is committed, like a bank robbery, here's the point I want to make, and I want you to respond. If there's a crime committed like a bank robbery, and let's say that 3 criminals run from the bank carrying the loot. One is a white man, one is a black man, and one is Asian or Hispanic. And the police are out there, they surround the perimeter, and there's a gunfight. What do you think is going to happen in the future? If shots are returned from either side and the black man, the bank robber, one of the 3, is shot and killed. Are we going to have another racial tension situation in this country where a crime has been committed and the black man of the 3 bank robbers is shot and killed? What happens if it's the white man of the 3 that is shot and killed, and or what happens if it's the Mexican or Asian man that is shot and killed? Where are we going to see the most in problems? My fear is that our police are going to have to holster their weapons in situations for total fear of another situation like what is happening right now. What are your thoughts on this? Think about it. I mean, our police right now are going to have to be very, very, very careful and selective as to what they do and who they respond to. Caller, I'll be right there. Thank you very much. Stand by. I want to remind everybody, too. Well, I'm going to take your call first. You've waited. Thank you. Go ahead, caller. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Zeb. Yeah, when we don't have any law, regardless of skin color,
This spark. I mean, the fact is now they've verified. I've seen the pictures where the Antifa or whatever. Somebody was waiting for this. It was an organized thing. They're bringing in bricks, to use to, our cops are being injured. They're being killed, and in serious condition and critical condition. But we've got to have law and order. That is the prime function of government under our Constitution, state and federal. And we don't have law and order, we don't have a country.
Well, let me jump in here, Adrian. Adrian, wait a minute. I'm not gonna let you have a long dissertation because I want to get a lot of people on here. Yesterday in the paper was an absolutely idiot written statement by people of the Associated Press where they came out and said that the police were using absolute police brutality to put down the rioters. That's not true. And they griped and complained that the police struck protesters with batons and used pepper spray. All of this, Adrian, was after police were shot in St. Louis. 4. A policeman was shot in the head in Las Vegas, and the head might never recover and might never go home and might never see any sense of normalcy ever again in his life. Who really is brutalizing this situation? It's Antifa and the Black Lives Matter that are using this to further their cause.
Well, absolutely, and there's been elements. You go back and if you watch that, I sent it over to you. Called Anarchy. It was produced in 1965, and that video and all the documentation in that thing pointed out all of these forces that they want revolution. They want to bring this. This is what the Democrats and the socialists, the Marxists that. The Bernie Sanders type people, they would just as soon burn the country down and then start over with their utopian whatever that is.
Yeah, and that's a farce and it's all folly.
We cannot tolerate this continued burning and looting and rioting. This is not a protest because of what happened.
That's right,
Mr. Floyd, but I tell you, it's just way beyond that. But there were people that were waiting for a spark like this, and so we've got to bring law and order back. And,
okay, fine. Okay, Adrian, wait a minute, please.
The biggest problem is they catch and release these people. They don't ever prosecute anybody. And that's wrong.
All right, wait a minute. Adrian, please, listen to me. The question I put out in front of the public this morning that I want addressed, are we going to force our police all across this country? It doesn't make any difference if it's New York, L.A., Chicago, or right here in Burley, Idaho, Twin Falls, Idaho. It doesn't make any difference. Are we going to force our police, because of this situation, to be a color-coded police force? In other words, you must wait, you must not respond or use any force because of skin color. This is absolutely hand-tying behind their backs the police and also the security for you and I.
Well, with the media being totally controlled by basically the liberal left and socialist, any kind of nothing that takes place that's going to show force to enforce the law, they're going to be the bad people.
Yeah.
I saw it on Good Morning America this morning. The very same thing. It was police brutality, but they did show this SUV running over and seriously, I think the guy's in critical condition in the hospital, run over the policeman.
Yeah.
And so this, it's just a real sad situation.
It is a sad situation, and I've got another call waiting, Adrian, and I appreciate it. I'm going to give everybody equal time. Thank you for your input this morning. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Denny's Restaurant. They're going to have a great big outside affair to celebrate summer, and that's going to be coming up on June 18th through the 21st. Talk to Michelle and Thomas. This is going to be a lot of fun. I urge everybody to be there. The 18th it kicks off, and that's a Thursday, and I'm going to urge all my lunch bunchers to be there at 611 North Overland in Burley. Delicious food, great people, always at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, and they're going to make a lot of fun out of it. I mean, we're going to have absolutely the best of food, but then also they're going to have a little duck pond. People can draw out prizes. They're going to have all kinds of decorations and giveaways. Lots of fun. June 18th through the 21st, Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, celebrating summer at 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. Raising this individual to sainthood is going to create more trouble for the police officers, law enforcement in this country. Now, I don't mind people having vigils, peaceful vigils for him, but what about the vigils for the officer that was shot in the head and the one that was wounded? Our police have been run down in the streets by this bunch of gangsters that's out there. And we're supposed to cave in, neutralize our police force where they're powerless to do anything because we've got all these saints running the streets.
Well, let's stop right there, Tony. The death of George, let's just lay this out line by line. The death of George Floyd by the so-called police officer that was nothing more than a thug wearing a uniform that over-exacerbated his problems and used force way above what was necessary in that situation, and he killed George Floyd. And I hope that charges are brought that are sufficient from murder one, which it was murder, and the other 3 officers also are charged as accomplices because this should have been stopped. The man was handcuffed and everything should have been stopped at that juncture, and he should have been taken to jail to answer for whatever crime he had committed. Not forgery, but trying to pass phony money was one of the charges. Now, let's stop there. This thing has got completely out of hand, and they're utilizing this, like you said, they're trying to create a sainthood about this situation, and unfortunately, racist movements are coming in to further the cause of trying to put one race above another. Let's call it like it is. And our police are being held captive. You had one rogue cop. You had 3 other standbys that didn't do anything, and they have blemished all the police across the entirety of the United States of America. That is entirely wrong. We have excellent police. We have excellent sheriffs and deputies all across this great land, and now they are put with targets on their back because of this lunacy.
Well, there's a movement out there to neutralize any means of law enforcement in this country. So whoever wants to come in, any gang wants to run roughshod over our country and our cities, they want a free hand to do it. You're right about this fella. He should have never been killed. He was helpless on the ground. There was no way he could cause anybody any trouble. He died as a result, and the 3 officers that stood by and did nothing, they should be in prison with this other
Absolutely.
officer.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. I mean, this was a sensuous murder.
But the point is, Tony, right here, I think you and I are on the same page. How do we go forward with respect for law and order in this country? when our police are going to be told by many, many mayors across the United States to color code their response to a crime? Are we going to live in fear that, I'll use the analogy I did a few minutes ago, and I'm not going to back up for anybody. If you have a white man, a black man, and let's say an Asian or a Mexican man, and the three of them rob a bank, and they leave together in the getaway car, and the cops try to stop them, there's a gunfight, and if the black man is shot, even though he's one of the bank robbers, are we going to live under this umbrella of having this same riotous breakdown of America again?
Well, how much support does Antifa have from the Democratic Party? And this is going to be a major issue. The Democratic Party would back Antifa to the hilt if they thought for 1 minute they'd be able to get rid of Donald Trump as a result.
I agree.
This is just my opinion.
No, it's proven that there's a utilization of what's happening all the way from the beginning of the Trump administration till now of all these coincidences, which the left is absolutely salivating over. They love all this. They love all this turmoil. They love seeing Donald Trump and his administration suffering for this going into the November election. And I'm very concerned, Tony. I'm more than concerned. As a grandfather and a father, I can see the handwriting on the wall that the liberal left in this country, they are salivating, I'll use that term again, over the demise of conservatism and the Republican and the Trump administration, and they're using this to gain more control.
Well, there's one sure cure for this thing. The peaceful demonstrators ought to go home, leave the streets open for Antifa, send in the 82nd Airborne and the Marine Corps, and go in there and clean house.
I don't know, man. We got to do something. We can't go on with this anymore. 8 nights of looting, burning, and denigration and destruction of America. It's gone way beyond the pale. Tony, God bless you and Mary. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Want to remind you, of course, Doug Martin has a business for sale. That's right. I mean, the whole shooting match ready for you. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street in Heyburn. The number to call, 878-4991. He will answer the phone and your questions about his business, which is a turnkey business ready for you, and he'll even train the new buyer. The business of rebuilding starters and alternators, etc. I urge you to call and find out about this great business opportunity. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street in Heyburn, 878-4991. There you go. You know, I have been diligent in watching the news and studying the news, reading the papers, and trying to find out all I can about what's going on. But a get-tough attitude started to work last night in many, many cities across the United States. But New York City and others are still way behind because of their left-wing mayors and liberal thoughts. Can you imagine, how many of you out in the audience have been to New York City? I have been there on numerous occasions. I'm not saying I know the city well, like a person that resides there, but I have been there. I've been on Saks Fifth Avenue. I have seen all the extremely fancy luxury stores that are there. I've been in Times Square. I've been all over that city. And right now, this morning, the businesses on Saks Fifth Avenue are boarded up with half-inch plywood sheets and then lined with razor wire, and they have hired really big guys, tough guys, to stand outside the business and try to thwart the looters that are coming after their businesses. Now just think about that. In the United States of America, boarded up with razor wire and hired guns, if you will, to stand outside and try to protect your business from looters? and our police are being shot, our police are being beaten, and our police are being run over by vehicles, and then they try to push back with pepper spray or their batons, and then the Associated Press and other very nitwit people accuse the police of police brutality? This is extremely upsetting. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. This technique that the officer used on the neck, I asked my brother, who was in law enforcement for many years in the Mini-Cash area, if he was taught that technique, and he told me yes, that they used it throughout most of his time as a police officer, and that he was pretty certain that it's still being taught today. So those officers who were standing around while the other officer had his neck on I forget what his name is.
George Floyd.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason they were standing around was because it's not an unusual technique for them to use.
Okay, now wait just a minute. Whether it's
to get them prosecuted as well, and I admit that seems excessive to have your knee on the guy's neck for 9 minutes, but it's what they've been taught. Now, I was just wondering what you thought should happen to the other officers.
Well, I think in the case of this, and again, we're at a point in law enforcement where being an officer, a deputy, or police chief, I mean, I do not envy these people at all. But I think right now when you have a man that's handcuffed, and that exacerbated the problem because he was in a position to where it was hard to breathe, the diaphragm, he couldn't expand, get the breath, according to some of the diagnostic doctors that looked at him in the postmortem, and then having the knee on the neck, all the weight on the neck, and he said, "Officer, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." There should have been some kind of a movement right there to remove that officer from the neck. He was already subdued and handcuffed. Why did they have to keep a knee on the neck? Explain that to me.
It makes no sense to me. Like, it was just I get a feeling that this officer, it was a power play by him.
I do too.
Too much ego, perhaps. I'm not sure what it was, but I know that from what I've been hearing that he's had a number of complaints filed against him over the years. There's just, you've really got to have the right demeanor to be a police officer, I believe, and perhaps they have to do more background checks on the people who want to be police officers. We don't need bullies to be our police officers.
Well, let me ask you this.
It was excessive what the officer did in this case, and he should have, once you've subdued the guy, get off his neck.
Yeah.
He's not going to get up. I mean, you could also put him in leg shackles. They carry them with them as well.
Well, let me ask you a question here.
Why keep doing this? I think the technique needs to either be done away with entirely or modified to say, hey, no more than 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Once you got the guy subdued, you get off him.
I'm sitting here and I'm reviewing the tape in my mind. I've seen it at least 100 times, honestly. I've looked at it, studied it, and I've talked to people back east that I refer to every day in D.C. and New York that help me with my program and the guests. And I'm sitting here going, okay, George Floyd was a big guy. He was a big guy, strong guy, former football player and everything else. And yet they had him subdued. He was handcuffed. He was on the ground. And when you have not one, but 4 police right there on the scene, 3 standing by and 1 with the knee on the neck, there was no need for more of a power play. When you take each individual cop, if there would have been any thrashing or whatever underneath that car on the pavement where George Floyd died, they could have handled it. I mean, 4 cops against 1 individual that's already handcuffed with his hands behind his back. This whole thing is absolutely ridiculous, and this man did not have to die. But here's the caveat. The memory of his life and having a protest about the way the police handled themselves absolutely is necessary. And these police need to suffer the consequences for their actions. But there is the point as to where these rioters, the Antifa, the Black Lives Matter, and all these other groups that want to absolutely destroy America, they are criminal as well. I agree.
They're just just taking advantage of the situation. Of course, I don't know if you saw this, but did you see the video in the last few days of the two police officers that had subdued another suspect, and one of them put their knee on the neck, just as they did with Mr. Floyd? And the other officer almost immediately said, "Get your knee off his neck."
Right.
Did you see that?
Yes. But now answer a question for me.
Paying attention to that technique is not good and not something that should be done. But in Mr. Floyd's case, he was prone face down on the pavement. It just didn't make sense for them not to get off of him.
Yeah.
I mean, his hands cupped behind his back and he's down. I know he's a big guy. My brother's a big guy for that matter. And the officers, I think, probably were all smaller than he was. But still, he's not going to be able to do much, even if you get off of him. If he was to stand up, I think at that point he was just going to say, "Okay, fine, they caught me."
Yeah.
And I don't really... Did they ever prove his offense? I know they said he was passing fake 20s.
Yeah, there was this George Floyd is not a man that doesn't have blemishes, and I'm certainly not trying to minimize what happened. Please understand that. But there were some altercations with the law and some illegalities that really haven't been brought out at this juncture, and they should be, I think, really. But let me go back to the original question I had when I started the show this morning, and I want you to respond. You're very articulate, and I want to hear your thoughts. Where do we go from here with law enforcement? Because are we going to color code the police response to various crimes? Are they going to pull back and withdraw if a black man is involved as opposed to a white man, a Hispanic, or whatever? I mean, are we going to have to color code police response?
My own opinion is no. They need to enforce the laws. They need to be cognizant of the fact that they're servants of the people. And they need to be careful that what they do doesn't endanger someone's life, even the life of a criminal, somebody caught in the act. They need to use the technique when absolutely necessary, but if they do use a technique like that, they need to end it as quickly as possible so that they don't endanger these people's lives, because no matter what Mr. Floyd did in the past, or if he was in fact guilty of passing fake 20s, was that deserving of a death sentence?
Yeah.
I would say no.
I totally...
If he was guilty and found guilty, then maybe he deserves to pay for his crime. But we need to train the officers, I think, in such a way that they don't see color.
Yeah.
They see a situation, they see what a person has done, and they make judgment calls based on that. I don't want people judging me on the color of my skin, or anyone else on the color of the skin. That's just wrong.
But the point I want to make, and I want to emphasize, and I've got another call waiting. I want you to...
Conversation nationally about what is our response going to be in the future in these situations. But color coding them, no, it's the wrong thing to do. I don't want them differentiating us between white, black, Indian, Hispanic, Oriental. It just shouldn't happen. We're all just people.
But you will admit, my question is a fair question, because every officer in the country today does not want the burden or the cement block on his back if a crime is committed and it happens to be that he has to use excessive force to stop the crime. If it's another black man, right now with the race situation the way it is in this country, we could have another igniting of what we're seeing right now. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes. I mean, that is, without a doubt, going to be on every officer's mind as they take someone down. But, again, I feel that what we need to do is make certain that these techniques are used only briefly, or maybe even done away with. I don't know why you need to put your knee on the back of some guy's neck, any man's neck. But color coding the situation, the officer's jobs are hard enough the way they are.
I agree.
I certainly would not want to be an officer in today's environment. It's a very difficult job.
Amen.
Because everything you do is scrutinized, and if you happen to screw up one time, someone's going to complain, and you're going to have problems. So,
sir, I've got to run, but I want to tell you how much I've enjoyed having you call in and giving us your opinion. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Caller, I'm going to take your call, and then I'm going to do the weather forecast, because as usual, I run late every morning. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning again. You know, somewhere along the line, I missed this whole picture. What did this guy do to get arrested, and was he going to be charged with? What was the crime?
Well, basically, the story's been very vague about why he was arrested and the reasons of the police involvement, etc. A lot of it was for the purported passing of phony money, $20 bills that were absolute forgeries. And, there's the point right there, Keith, of finding out exactly what the crimes were, what his past entails as far as what his involvement against law has been in the past. There's a lot of things about the man's history we don't know, but the point is there was excessive force and the man lost his life. That's the main point that we're concerning ourselves with this morning, and it was way overboard, and these 4 policemen should pay, and pay dearly for what they've done.
Evidently, he didn't put up much resistance when they put the handcuffs on him.
No.
So why the violence?
Yeah, I mean, it's excessive, and it's absolutely offensive. Thank you, Keith. I got to run and do the weather. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Our weather this hour brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup and her staff serving you and your hearing health. Now, where are they? Right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, and the number to call to make a hearing screening appointment, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. I keep saying this, and it's oh so true. They provide the best, the expert diagnostic testing combined with the best technology to help your hearing health. Right now, let's have the weather with Gina.
Sunshine going to stick with us for the rest of the week, but maybe some rain showers by this weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Today, mostly sunny skies, looking at a high of 85, a little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 23 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly clear skies with a low of about 55. Winds are going to be consistent out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 83 with an overnight low of 54. Friday, mostly sunny skies, high of 90. Now, by Friday night, it looks like a storm is going to be rolling in, bringing along with it some rain showers, thunderstorms, and we are expecting a low of 56 by Saturday and Sunday. This is where the rain is going to come in. About a 70% chance of rain showers throughout the weekend. We are expecting highs in the low 70s. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina. Had a birthday yesterday. Birthday girl right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. Our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Number to call, 312-0957. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, a couple things. Last night, Nora, my wife, was showing me a black lady arguing with a black group about how blacks kill blacks and nobody ever does anything about it. She says, the blacks are still dead. They're still dead. It didn't matter who killed them. They're still dead. And so did you hear about the black security guard who was just shot randomly? And we have not heard one thing about it, and he was most likely killed by somebody, I would assume, that was protesting, because it was right down the street from a protest. And, you know, somebody's driving around and they're just randomly breaking windows and robbing and shooting, and nobody cared about that black security guard who was doing his job.
Let me say this, Randy, and I think you're going to agree with me on this. Isn't it absolutely sickening and repulsive that we sit here on a talk show or any newscast across America today and we refer to blacks, Hispanics, brown skin, whitey, when really in essence we're all God's children, we're all human beings, and it's about high time that we started acting again like human beings.
I tell you what, see, the perpetuation
the promoting of this type of behavior by the black leadership and the Democratic leadership. And, it's just like what Biden said, if you ain't voting Democrats, you ain't black.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, what a condescending. You'd say to yourself, if you're African American and you say, I'm tired of being treated like this. Candace Owens used to be foolish too. Now she's hated by the Democrats and the black leadership because the truth is the truth. Blacks kill blacks by a way higher percentage than whites kill blacks. And it's proven.
I know it is, Randy, but all I'm going to say is, and I've got another call waiting, all I'm going to say is this. We have got to get back to, and people out there in the audience, if you're offended by this, it's your problem, not mine. We have got to get back to what God's principles are. Thou shalt not kill. And we need to come back to the principles of being human beings with moral values and family values, which leads me to one quick remark and give me a short answer. For these 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old punks that are running the streets, where in the hell are their parents?
They're on their phones. They're trying to be cool. They're distracted. They're looking at stuff on their phones that
It's a mess. It's a mess. Randy, God bless you, man. I appreciate.
All they care about is having food, shelter, and a phone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got to run and take another call, buddy. Thank you so much. Caller, please, your patience is appreciated. I've got to get this in quickly or I'm going to run out of time. Barry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts. You know that they've got 3 locations. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. And I've told you so long, and it's really, really true. For all the tough jobs of lifting, digging, pushing, carrying, grading, leveling, whatever, they've got the equipment you need, like the Bobcats, all the trenchers, scissor lifts, all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators for lease and or purchase. Great programs for you. You check it out today at Barry Equipment and Rental in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, thank you for your patience.
You betcha. Good morning, Zeb. You took the words right out of my mouth. We need to get back to being we the people. Doesn't matter whether you're black, white, purple, orange, pink, or blue. We're still U.S. citizens. We're still Americans. We're still people. One bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bushel. That video, and I watched it and I almost cried. It's like the arrogance of his smirk on his face as he was snuffing the life out of that young man.
Yeah.
Was despicable. But I'm a law enforcement follower. I love our police force. I love our police, our firemen, our EMTs. They're the first responders. They run in when we're running out. And we have to stop George Soros and some of the Democrats from paying these demonstrators. These are not the people that are doing the peaceful protests. These are people that are hired to come in and destroy and kill. And that's wrong. We need, like President Trump is doing, bringing in the military. Take them out. Get rid of them. If they shoot 3 or 4 of them, the others are going to run like little dogs.
The point I want to make at this whole program this morning, and I've got people that are listening all over the United States, especially this morning to the program from Washington, D.C. They are monitoring. I can guarantee you that. The point I want to make is, where is our humanity? Where is the common sense or decency in a store owner trying to protect his business with his wife and these group of punks and thugs from Antifa and Black Lives Matter and the videos are the proof. I don't need to elaborate much further. They run up to the store owner, they grab the wife, and they begin beating her with a 2x4 until she falls to the ground almost unconscious. Then the man is beaten because he's trying to protect his wife, and they beat him into submission, and then they smirkily faced walk away. They are protected species. The cops can't touch them. I am fed up with this. It's not in honor of a man that died. It's absolutely what they want to destroy America, its value system and its morals, and take over with their filth.
Oh, I couldn't have said it any better, Zeb. What they're doing is not going to bring that young man back.
That's right.
My prayers go out to his family. He might have been a criminal. I don't know what he was doing to be arrested. But he did not deserve to die.
But the point I want to make on this first hour, and we've asked this question, and I'll ask it of you, give me a short answer because I'm out of time, is are we going to put our police right now across the nation, I don't care if it's California, Idaho, Utah, Texas, doesn't make any difference, are we going to put them in a position to where they have to be color-coded and fear about doing something in a state of emergency that might cause another riot?
Are we going to?
That's about what it's headed.
No. Turn them loose. Let them do their damn job.
I agree. Donna, thank you. I hope George is healing up, and thank you for your call.
You betcha he is. Thanks, Ed.
All right, take care. Thank you. We're going to run to the news right now from CBS and let them come in and mess up everything, and then we'll be back in about 7 minutes. We're going to go on the air with my good buddy Dave Bego at 9:06. Everybody have a great day. Stay tuned. Remember how I said that CBS News was going to mess everything up? And they did. Did you hear that comment by the CBS News broadcaster that Stephen King from Idaho was not reelected? No, you dolt. Stephen King is from Iowa. See what I mean? They don't pay attention to what they put on the air. Oh, boy. Welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch, and we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you in a very safe, clean environment with the best in tires. And, of course, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, here's some good words about our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is landing ahead, always at your disposal.
And, of course, if you have a garbage problem, and we all are looking to get rid of the garbage, I'll tell you what, you need to call Western Waste and get on the route service. Absolutely. Once a week, they pull up with that big truck, get your garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. They are the best at service to you. Western Waste Services, number to call, 734-6969. It's true. They are always at your disposal. Let's not forget, too, our friends over at Hanson Mortuary. Dear people that so community-oriented in serving you. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. Joel Heward, family, and staff are always there to serve you. Very flexible hours to make sure that you're taken care of, and always providing the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort. And, above all, upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please remember that number, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Wonderful people. Ladies and gentlemen, to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. We're going to have Nick on the air tomorrow at 9:17. And I'll tell you what, for all your aching and paining and you're recuperating from surgery or accident, they're there. With the best of physical therapists, the best of all the exercises, the best of all the equipment, and the use of the hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its kind in the area, I urge you to call. That's where I go. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191 for the best Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. On Wednesdays, we always look forward to talking with my friend, and he is my friend, and I'm sure his heart is probably aching and breaking over what's going on in this country. Dave Bego, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine. Hope you're doing well.
I am, but I want to kind of draw two dots and connect the dots here between southern Idaho and Indiana right now, where you live. And we are seeing, after 8 nights of total despair, total denigration and degradation of our country, the looting, the burning, I mean, the absolute animalistic activities that are going on. What are your thoughts?
Zeb, I think this is just part of the far left, the deep state's agenda to bring this country down. And as you mentioned in your Zeb at the Ranch Cow Pies and Coffee Cups on May 29th, these people, they want to bring this country, they're shredding our country, and they want to take us to a socialist country. And that's what this is all about.
Dave, honestly, we're pretty much the same age, and you're back in the Midwest, I'm out here in Idaho, but I have never seen anything like this. I mean, we've gone through the coronavirus, and we were told that we can't go here and we can't go there, and we saw churches and church leaders arrested and congregate members arrested for going to church and trying to worship. But these thugs, these punks, these vermin are running down the streets of cities all across America and burning and destroying and looting. There's no law left anymore, Dave.
No, but there's Zeb, these are happening mostly in the liberal democratic cities, and other cities you're not seeing much of it. And it's great to see. I mean, we saw a little bit of it here in Indianapolis, but our mayor, who, by the way, is the first Democratic mayor we've had in years, but he's really, quite honestly, he's more of a conservative type person. He's kind of in the middle, and he's locked down on them, and he's put curfews on, and it's gone away. And in cities like Miami, Florida, which has a Republican mayor and all that, they haven't had anything down there. Where you're seeing this is where the left has a lot of strength and ties, and that, you're talking about Soros and unions like the SEIU and other leftists and that, and they're out there, and Zeb, they're paying these people to do this. I had a friend in Oregon, because Oregon is a big union SEIU state, that sent me a flyer that was dropped out of a person's hands when they were rioting in the streets of Oregon. It says, "Get paid by a professional anarchist. Get paid up to $200 for direct action, funded by George Soros."
I know what you're saying is correct, but here we are. I don't care if it's Miami. I don't care if it's Detroit, Michigan. I don't care if it's Minneapolis, Minnesota, New York City, Chicago, L.A. It doesn't make any difference. But what has happened was a very, very serious murder of a black man by 4 police that should not have had a uniform on. But it has sparked more than a protest. It has sparked insurrection by Antifa and Black Lives Matter and other terrorist groups to take America by the neck and destroy it. You'd have to agree with that.
Oh, 100%. And, Black Lives Matter, that's supported by the SEIU. Antifa is supported by Soros. And, in fact, I think both of those groups support them. And, this is, again, this is the far left's whole agenda. with this election come up, because, impeachment didn't work and the coronavirus didn't work, and they're doing everything they can to bring this president down and regain the White House and regain the Senate and keep the House so they can fundamentally turn our country around into a socialist, communistic country so they can control us, Zeb. And people need to wake up to this. And what's interesting, I had a guy out at my house yesterday evening to look at doing some work on my driveway, and he had been out there before and done some, but we need to do a little more. And I'd given him a copy of my book, and he says, Dave, I got to tell you, first thing, my wife read your book, and she absolutely loved it. And, she can see what's going on in America based on what's on your book, because everything they did against you in your book are the same type of tactics they're doing against America. And I said, yes, they are, and this is who they are.
Absolutely. I'm going to go into some different facets of this morning, and one of which I know that you're a very devoted family man, and so you'll be able to relate to this. But they have estimated that many of the percentages of these punks and thugs that are running down the streets, looting, burning, breaking glass, trying to get official vehicles burned, etc., are punks that are only 14, 15, 16, and 17 years of age. So right there you have to draw the line, and a question pops up. Where are the parents? Where's the parental control? What's going on? I think the parents of these punks, these kids that are absolutely causing all this mayhem, should be thrown in jail along with their kids.
Well, yeah, the parents need to stand up and do the right thing with their kids in that. But, a lot of them, unfortunately, and even I'm sure when you were when I was in school, there was not people as bad as what we're seeing today, but still went out and did things that they shouldn't be doing, and the parents, just looked the other way. And one of the things, and since you brought this up, I got to tell you this, because I actually told this story to one of the ladies that works in our office, because her kids are getting close to this age. When my daughter was a senior in high school, we were at the school and at a teachers conference where you go from classroom to classroom and talk to different teachers that she had and that. And we were in one classroom, and I was talking to my wife was talking to the teacher, and I was just standing there, and this older lady in the room, and Zeb, I'd say at that time this lady was 75, and this was back in 1999. And she came up to me and started talking to me, and she says, so how many kids do you have, Dave? And I said, I've got 3. One's a senior here, one's a sophomore here, and one's a freshman here. And she goes, well, Dave, let me tell you something that you need to understand and you need to be strong about. And I go, what's that? She says, when kids reach 12 years old, they cease being human beings, and they do all kinds of bad things and all that, and they're not good people. And it's not until 21 when they're 21 years old to become human beings again. And Zeb, in a lot of ways, she's right, and that's what we're going through. And parents need to stand up.
I agree with that, but I also draw a line of definition. I don't think anyone that age bracket leaves a definition of being a human being. I don't accept that. We're all human beings, and we all need to absolutely live by a code of morals and values and family values, and that today is what's missing. They don't leave at 12 years of age, leave being a human being. Many times they are let loose by their parents because there's no parental control. I'm not going to say that they turn into animals for those 8 or 9 years. I can't do that. We're all human beings, and we better start acting like it.
Well, I agree with that, but what she meant by that, is that they're not acting like human beings. They're acting out of discourse and stuff like that, and that's what she was really getting.
No, I understand what your meaning is there, but the problem is we have got away from family values in this country, the rights and the wrongs and the do's and the don'ts, the blacks and the whites, and I'm not talking about human beings. We've got to get back to a semblance of law and order. Look at where the police are put today. Let's look at where the police are put today. They all across the United States right now are put into a box. And how are they going to do their job when it's now turned into a color-coded situation? Oh, there's a black man with a gun that just robbed a bank. Ooh, I better not stop him because it might start more race riots in this United States. Is that what we're going to put our police through? Is a color-coded law enforcement?
Well, I can tell you, Zeb, it shouldn't. In Indianapolis, that's not what the mayor and the police department's doing here, because they had people doing that, and the police department, they went out and with these rioters the other night who were, several nights ago, who were going to march it to the governor's mansion, which is just north of downtown Indianapolis, and protest, and, maybe who knows what they do. But the police walked out and walked with them and talked to them and went through what they could do and what they couldn't do, and that there was a curfew in place and that they needed to be good people. And what's interesting about that, Zeb, is they never got to the mayor's mansion. They got, short of it a little bit. And they even had videos on TV of the police talking to these people, and these people stepping back and say, you're right. And nothing violent happened. The protesters, when they stopped and kind of agreed with what the police were doing, they just walked off and went home. And it really worked, and that's what needs to happen in America.
But the stirring of the pot. You and I are almost 99.9% on the same page most of the time, and I think you will be here. But the stirring of the pot by the left, by the Soros people, well, maybe by the SEIU and others, the stirring of the pot by politicals like Joe Biden and others, coming out yesterday and saying that Donald Trump is the problem with America today. That's why we're going through all this unrest. Slow Joe is not the brightest bulb in the fixture, but for him to come out and everybody always blaming Donald Trump for everything. I mean, he is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I'm fed up with this, and I think it's going to really infringe upon his being reelected.
Well, I am fed up with it too, and I agree with you. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people will step back and look at what's going on and look at Joe Biden, and I think it may be a benefit to Trump when the election comes.
I hope so, but Dave, never in my life have I seen this much turmoil, this much hate, this much fear and destruction. Where in your lifetime, and you haven't because it's never happened before, has the famous Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City, the famous stores and all the storefronts and all the jewelry and the glitz and the glitter, it's behind boarded up windows this morning with razor wire. And outside they've hired hitmen to stand there, and anybody that comes up and causes a problem, they're going to take it upon themselves to put it down. This is in New York City on one of the most famous streets in America, and that's what we're at right now. Whether it's L.A., whether it's Minneapolis, whatever, we have people living in fear, and nobody in America should live that way.
Well, I agree, but again, you're talking about big cities like that are controlled by the left and the unions, and and that's why you're seeing it being even worse in these cities, because the left and the unions, they get these people out there, and they go out and they brainwash them, and they get them out there to do this stuff, and again, it's all about bringing things down and taking over our country, and they're just going to keep doing it. It's going to be it's kind of like a war, Zeb.
It is. I don't know if you saw the video or not, but every time I've seen it, I saw it about probably 8 times now, of the husband and wife store owners in New York City that were protecting the front of their store from these insidious creeps. And the wife was beaten over the head and shoulders with a 2x4 until finally she passed out on the sidewalk. And the husband, trying to protect his wife, was beaten incessantly with a crowbar and 2x4 until he fell to the ground. And this is not the America that I want. This is not the America of chaos that I want. And then a comment was made on CNN after this happened. And this commentator said, well, property violence isn't violence, and so therefore these protesters shouldn't be arrested. How ridiculously stupid is that?
Well, it is, but, CNN and a lot of the media is controlled by the left, and they're going out there to have them support what's going on out there. It's sad what's going on, but I think I've told you before, my second book, The Devil at Our Doorstep, even though I'd been on the media and, CNN and MSNBC and others to talk about my first book, The Devil at My Doorstep, to this day, not one of them have let me come back on to talk about my second book, The Devil at Our Doorstep, because when the union saw me on there, the SEIU saw me on there talking about my first book, they went after the media's advertisers, and of course the media started losing money, and they told the media, don't ever have him back on, or we'll go after your advertisers again. And this is what's happening behind the scenes. Not just about me; it's about anything that the left and the unions don't agree with.
Dave, simply put, now you've built a big business. I'm very proud to know you. And quite frankly, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished in my life. But how do we rebuild America after these 8 nights of turmoil, devastation, degradation, destruction, burning, looting, and the divide between personalities and races in this country? How do we rebuild this?
We have to get back out there as a country and the people in this country and stand up and have a firm backbone against the left and what they're doing, and engage all of our friends and relatives and people that we know and other people that we meet across the country. And it doesn't matter what their background is. And we got to do that, and America needs to do that now. And the biggest thing is you got to have the backbone to stand up to this stuff, and also our people in Congress and the Senate need to have a backbone and stand up too, and embrace the American people.
I would say it's got to start in the churches. We need to get back to church on Sunday as a family. We need to start in the schools. We need to have teachers and professors that are going to sit there and go on about how great this country has been and how great it can be, instead of absolutely demoralizing our kids into thinking they live in the worst country in the world. It's got to start in the churches and the schools.
No, I agree with you. And the education system, I believe I've said this on your show before, is it's been controlled for the last 30, 40 years by the left, and they've been brainwashing our kids into socialism, communism is the right way to go, because you'll get this and we'll give you that and everything else. And that's what all this is about. And the only way to really get away from that, Zeb, is more kids in private schools where they're being taught by teachers that aren't unionized teachers.
Yeah. One final thought, and I don't mean to beleaguer this, we talked briefly about it earlier, but with all this garbage that's going on, and it is garbage, and I think it's a very well orchestrated, organized garbage attempt to destroy Trump and his reelection. What are your thoughts with some of the people you talk to, some of the politicos, etc.? What do you think is going on leading into November? Is there a lot of concern and worry about Trump's reelection?
I'm not hearing a lot, Zeb, and I'm hearing a lot of people that on both sides of the aisle, and not the far left side of the Democratic aisle, that are really tired of this stuff and what's going on. And I think they're leaning more towards the right.
Okay. Dave, you're always welcome on the show. God bless you, man. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll look forward to next Wednesday. Dave Bigo in Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me on, and you stay safe and well, too.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. Have a lot of respect for that, man. He's a dear friend. Thank you. I want to remind you about Denny's Restaurant. What is going on at Denny's? Listen, let me tell you, they are going to go all in for summer fun on June 18, 19, 20, and 21. They're going to have hot times for summer fun right there in the parking lot. I'm telling you, they're going to, on the 18th, they're going to have every table set up outside and people can go in there and eat. I hope my lunch bunch shows up on the 18th. And, of course, they're going to have decorations and giveaways. They're going to have a duck pond for all kind of prize drawings. Oh, it's going to be fun. Hope the weather's great. And if it is, I hope they have the masses turn out at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. Put it on your calendar. Great food, great people. Denny's Restaurant in Burley. Thank you very much. Also, a quick reminder about our friends over to Let's Ride. Oh, get your motor running. Yeah, turn the key, get out of Dodge City, head for the hills, and enjoy life. Up in the mountains on the trails with a side-by-side or a four-wheeler from Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Oh, my, the number to call, 436-4771. And then the hours they've got now, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2. Let me tell you something. I don't know how they got them all in that showroom, but they've got just vehicle after vehicle, side-by-sides, four-wheelers, all the accessories, everything at Let's Ride, including a great super service department to keep you running at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Real quick, also in that same vicinity, I want to mention and give a great big shout out to Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Hello, Todd and the crew. We're the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more by people that are really dedicated to serving you. And that's the truth. All you need to do is call and make an appointment at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424, and they will serve you. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really good folks. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest, when he was first on my program, I said it's kind of like the cowboy and the man from Beantown. Well, the man from Beantown back in Boston, Massachusetts is Gary Goldman, national political analyst. Gary, how in the dickens are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing all right, Zeb. How about yourself in these crazy times, right? You know, just when you think it can't get any crazier, something else happens. It's unbelievable.
Well, Gary, that's why I wanted you on the program. I admire your being very candid about the various issues, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning. I have been very forthright on this program in condemnation of what's going on in cities all across this United States with a completely liberal, progressive, down-the-toilet attitude by mayors and governors of various states for letting this problem exacerbate and completely get out of hand. What are your thoughts?
Oh, you couldn't be. You're 100% correct. Look, we've had our share of it. Sunday night in Boston, rally turned into a mob scene throughout the city. And you have to have some sort. If you're the mayor or the governor, first of all, it's so hypocritical that I wrote a piece the other day online. I put a piece online that in the Boston area, myself or people, they must social distance. We have to wear masks. No gatherings of 10 or more. Yet the rioters and the looters are allowed to gather by the hundreds, stand side by side, go without masks, burn down businesses that we are not allowed to open. It's a sign of weak elected officials. It's a sign of a political ploy that's going on here. What is taking place right now, Zeb, in my opinion, not the people that go out, do their protesting, their freedom of speech. I have no problem with that. The problem is these thugs, gang members, we could go through a list of who makes up this Antifa. They hide in the background, and when the quote-unquote good rally gets over or protest goes over, they go to work through the streets of the cities. Nothing more than urban warfare, and it has to be stopped. The president is right, 100%, that we need to stop it. In our area, they're trying to move it out into the suburbs. Thank God the local police are spending a lot of time on social media. I'm talking a lot of the malls. We're not open here in Massachusetts, so the malls are still closed. They were trying to get into several malls the other day. They're trying to create as much chaos on the street. These are not people that are concerned about Mr. Floyd. These are people that have an agenda, that want to disrupt our way of life, that dislike our way of life, and you have to deal with them
immediately and strict. There can be no in-between here. We allowed another rally to go on in another town in Massachusetts last night, and guess what happened? After the rally, they broke windows, they looted stores. Look, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand what's going on here, and I just don't understand why these mayors and these governors of these states will not take the action necessary. We have the National Guard on the streets, but it's up to the mayors to determine at what level they want to use them. It's shameful, Zeb, and it's only going to get worse if we don't stop it. And God forbid it gets into the suburbs. It's going to be a different type of situation because a lot of people in the suburbs are armed, and they will not tolerate people looting from them and stealing from them and robbing from them.
Gary, everything you said is what I wanted to hear this morning because you are right there in the thick of many of this problem. But when you talk about our police, and I want you to really elaborate on this a little bit, our police, in my opinion, tell me if I'm wrong, please, they have been painted into a box right now. And that box is to where their law and the way they respond to certain situations, I'm afraid, is going to be color-coded from now on. And when I say color-coded, I use the analogy in the first hour. Let's say 3 guys rob a bank, and they jump out of the bank and they get into a car. One's white, one's black, and one might be Hispanic. If the police respond in a gunfight with the bank robbers and a black man is shot and killed that was one of the bank robbers, we could see the insightful riots again across this whole country because law enforcement now, I believe, is color-coded.
No, listen, you're correct. The police are boxed into a corner on so many different levels here. Look at what happened to Mr. Floyd is unacceptable. Look, but here's the thing, Zeb. There are bad cops, there are bad lawyers, there are bad judges, there are bad business people. We have to deal with those situations. It looks like they're dealing with this rogue police officer, and he's been charged, and now we have to let it play out. But with that said, you can tell the police feel very uneasy. They're unsure of what to do. They're taking, look at New York City, what's happening with the police there based on what de Blasio is doing. They're being held back from, number one, doing their job. And when they're doing their job, they're second-guessing. You can tell they're second-guessing. And talking to friends of mine that are in law enforcement, this is what's going on. Look, they don't want to get sued. They don't want to lose their job. They're just trying to do what they have to do. We've taken a situation where there was a rogue, bad officer that started this whole mess last week. And again, he's being dealt with. But we can't paint that brush on all police officers. Are there problems in our society? No doubt about it. Is there racial issues in our society? No doubt about it. But you know what we have to do, Zeb? We have to talk about those we have to talk about it like adults. And we have to face each other. And there shouldn't be, look at, I spoke with someone from the Black Lives Matter group recently, and they said to me, do you believe Black Lives Matter, yes or no? Now, I'm like, well, I believe Black Lives Matter, but let me ask you this. Do you believe all Black Lives Matter? Because as an American citizen, it doesn't matter the color of my skin. I'm concerned about the police officer, the police officer that was shot in San Diego, the federal officer.
Yes.
I'm concerned about every individual that's shot every weekend in Chicago. So, let's stop making conditions to have a conversation. If we want to have a conversation, let's have the conversation. Let's define the problems. We don't even have to point blame. Define the problems and work on a solution. Let's not play victim. And I'm not saying any one group, but let's not play victim and let's deal with the problem. This reminds me of the immigration problem where we kick it down the can, because that's the can down the road, because that's what the Democrats like to do. And who are the culprits in this? Who are the ones that get stuck in the middle here? The law enforcement that are out there every day protecting us. It's ridiculous.
Gary, you're back in the East Coast area to where you really get a pulse on what's happening politically, more so than other parts of the country, I believe. And right now, I see a utilization of this absolute heinous activity of rioting and burning and looting every single night for the past 8 nights as a crutch for the Democratic Party to throw Trump out of office. Do you think I'm wrong?
Well, I think that, look, if any situation that comes about, they will take it and utilize it on their behalf. There is no doubt that they're playing politics with this. Again, a state right next to us, Rhode Island. I own property in Rhode Island. street, I believe, Monday night. What happens Monday night? They have terrible looting in downtown Providence. The next day, they put it on the street. She didn't like the tone of the meeting with President Trump on Monday when he said, basically, you have to get tough. You can't look at. We have don't we have a social contract? That's what I always believe. I follow the law. You protect me as the mayor, the governor, the president, whomever. That's part of the deal. You protect us. Don't play politics with it. Protect us. But it's all becoming political, and they're doing whatever they can at the cost of the American people, people's businesses, people's livelihood, to try and throw Donald Trump out of office. Do I think it's going to work? No, I think more and more people are onto them. But it's horrific that this is going on, Zeb. And truthfully, this urban warfare, as I'm now starting to call it, or domestic terrorism, however you want to refer to it, is going to go on through the summer. I've been saying this for months, that there was going to be something that would trigger this throughout the summer months to try and help throw this election, and here we are.
Gary, economically, you being shut down longer than most states, I mean, we're in stage 3 here of reopening, which is basically almost all open in the state of Idaho, as compared to back there where you are. Economically, this country, for the last 2.5 to 3 months, just absolutely fell into an abyss. Now, with our boot heels on the edge of that canyon ready to fall in permanently economically, you have this problem that's hurting all about 43, 44 states in the union and all their major cities. Can we come back from this economically?
I think we can come back from this economically. I know we can come back from this economically. But here's the problem, and you just named it. If we're constantly we have the fear of COVID-19. Some of that hysteria, I think, very much overplayed. One life lost is one too many. But playing that hysteria card, which is what the Dems did, really didn't work on their behalf. So now they're on to something else. This creates another degree of fear in people's minds. Fear of just walking through the city, going out to eat, going in a mall. Because what will happen eventually, Zeb, is once things start opening up, these thugs will attempt to do something like this not in the cover of night, during the course of a day, which will just create that fear and that anxiety amongst people. Should that happen, or to any degree, it's going to be difficult in a short period of time to pull out of the problems we're having economically. Look, I own a business in the state of Massachusetts. It has affected us. It's going to continue to affect my business, my friends' businesses, everyone I know. The fact that we're not open yet is absolutely absurd. Again, there's political reasons for that. We need to get the economy open and moving. I'm not sure it's going to be that big V spike that the president's talking about. I think if we can get it open and calm this relatively quickly, and I say relatively quickly, by next week at this time, we shouldn't be talking about looting and rioting, because if we are, then the economic impact is going to be greater and much more difficult to move the country forward.
Absolutely.
The president has his hands full. Look, no matter which way he turns, they have something to say. But this is going to be difficult if this type of behavior continues.
Gary, I want to talk a little bit about the thugs and the creeps and the instigators. You probably know much more than I would out here in Idaho who these people are, how they're recruited, who the organizers are, etc. Where is all the money coming from to allow for vehicles to go into certain areas loaded with bricks and 2x4s and have all these looters ready to ignite various businesses while drawing the attention of the police in another direction? This is very well orchestrated and organized, right?
Yeah, this has Antifa's signature all over it, George Soros, and we could go through, and many other Democrats that I think that have people doing their dirty work, off the side to create this anarchy and chaos in our society. So, Antifa, number one, there's a rogue element of Black Lives Matter that, are part of this. Look at, the best of all worlds for them. We have people not working because our businesses are closed. They produce this information through coded language all over social media, and they get recruits. There are people that want to, kids that really, a lot of them don't understand what they're doing, but they're doing it. When I say they don't understand, they don't think through what's going to happen to them if and when they get caught. So their recruitment is pretty easy. It's even easier now, Zeb, because there are a lot of people not working. And when there are some people in certain cities across the country that are organizing this, that are getting paid through some backdoor nonprofit somehow or some means, and they're keeping this alive. Look at, again, they were waiting for something to happen. Once it did, they were on the move so quickly. We have to be investigating and finding out who these people are. I honestly believe there are gang members involved in this. Every low-life element of society is out there involved in this, and I'd hasten to believe that there are people that we recently let out of prison because of COVID-19 that are involved in this. Look at Massachusetts, our DA in Suffolk County, which is Boston, and the Attorney General of the state of Massachusetts, while the rioting was going on in the state Sunday night, were sending out emails, and they were on Facebook and tweeting about how black people have suffered throughout the year. Look, there's a time and a place for the conversation, but you don't throw gasoline on a fire in the middle of the fire while law enforcement, the people that you're supposed to be working with, are out trying to protect us from the harm that's going on. So there's a culture in this country. I think it is swept into our public office. We see it with many Congress people that have come into office in the last few years. Their motivation is to try and destroy the American way of life. And we thought we had a swamp in regard to what President Trump has talked about. We have another swamp that we have to figure out who is involved with, that is financing and putting these anarchists to work to turn our way of life around and destroy the American dream.
You know, Gary, there's another problem in this country, and it's a major problem, and it's our industry, yours and mine. The left-wing media, with comments the other day from a CNN commentator that said it's not violence to destroy property because property can be replaced. This kind of idiocy from the media is absolutely stoking the fire.
Look, all you had to do was watch last week's CNN, MSNBC, and even some of the local channels here in Boston are really starting to get on my nerves with how little they're reporting the looting, like it's really not happening. But when they're showing a building burning, and they're showing people throwing bricks through buildings and saying, this is really not a violent protest, look at that. They've been trying to manipulate words, manipulate history through different narratives. Every picture tells a story. They can lip sync whatever they want to say on the air, but I think a lot of Americans are looking at that and saying, wait a second here. This is not really what's happening. And again, God forbid it starts creeping away from the inner city, because it will, and it comes into suburban America, then you're going to see the people really rise up and lose their minds. But the mainstream media, the local media, they love this. This is part of their narrative. They think this is going to help prevent President Trump from being reelected. But you have to sit back and wonder, what are they thinking? What did they do in Atlanta on Friday night? What was one of the first buildings they went after? CNN, the people who have given these thugs cover day after day, week after week, Zeb. So think about that. Their thought process in the mainstream media is, if we're nice to them and we give them some space and we work on their behalf, they're not going to hurt us. Let me tell you something, Zeb. When they have the opportunity, they will hurt the mainstream media, believe me.
You know, you brought up a point, Gary, that I want you to elaborate on. I've only got a few minutes left, but you mentioned the word the suburbs and going into perhaps the rural locales. That is extremely scary, because then you're talking about a lessening of the numbers of police force that can absolutely try to thwart these people. Have you, or did you garner any information that maybe Antifa, maybe Black Lives Matter, and these other creep groups have thought about going into the suburban areas?
Zeb, I will tell you from what I have read, people that I have talked to in law enforcement, every American should be concerned about this right now. And I'm not the type of person, I think you know, we've talked many times, that tries to create hysteria. Look, at the next logical thing to do is to get into the suburbs. They've made their point in the city. At some point, they know we're going to have enough police and firepower, quote unquote, in the city to quell their problems. But think of again, that's why I refer to it as urban warfare. Think of what they can do with hit or miss runs in small little towns or suburbs outside of the city. It could be horrendous. It will create the fear in people. And as you said, most cities and towns in suburbia do not have the means with law enforcement, even if they call in the state police. What are you going to do? Bring more National Guard to roam every street and every town? Because these people are smart enough to know if they'll put it out there, I'm going to hit 3 different areas. They may not go to those areas. They may go to some 4th area they're not talking about, or they may hit one of the 3. I think it's a big problem. I think it's going to be with us for a portion of the summer. And I think we should, Americans right now, if anything, should be proactive and doing what they can to protect themselves, because it is obvious that the politicians feel that it's more important to give these individuals, under the cover of being tyrants and being, thugs, the opportunity to speak, knowing that they're in the crowds of the great people that are protesting, try to get their point across, and they're disseminating throughout the night into the darkness to create their havoc. I think we have some serious problems on our hands. And unfortunately, I don't think we have strong enough elected officials who are capable of dealing with the problems that are going to confront us.
Gary, final thought, and again, elaborating a little bit on your last statement, but if you all of a sudden were given the Solomonistic powers to come up with a decree as to how to settle this problem, what would you do and how would you start it?
Well, I think the first thing, you need manpower, overwhelming manpower to show these individuals that this is not going to be tolerated. Number 2 is, as you arrest them, you can't have judges letting them out the next day. An individual that throws a Molotov cocktail at a New York police officer because it didn't ignite was let out of jail. Absolutely absurd. Then we should have the ability in this country, the surveillance and the technology to find out who these people are, go after them. The president's right, label these groups domestic terrorism, and go after them out of RICO laws, whatever the case may be. We have to go after them. We have to put all of our assets forthright right now and go after them, and that's what I would do to stop this right now. And I'd make it clear that wherever they go, we will. If they hit us, we'll hit them 10 times harder. And when I say that here in liberal Massachusetts, the hate email I get, Zeb, is unbelievable. I'm not a violent person, but I'm also concerned about, again, this social contract that we're supposed to have with our government, that we pay our taxes, we abide by the law, and you protect us. Not protecting me and letting some people willfully roam the streets and create this chaos is unacceptable to me. Totally unacceptable.
Gary, I mean this. We've never met, never shook hands, but I extend to you the well wishes of staying safe, stay well, and thank you for coming on the program. National political analyst from Boston, Massachusetts, Gary Goldman. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. There you have it. A man that's been right in the thick of the problem, and a broadcaster from back in the Boston, Massachusetts area, Gary Goldman. He's been on my program many times in the past, and believe me, will be on the program many times in the future. And just telling it like it is. And the one thing that really bothered me, I'm going to say this before I go to the weather. Our local sheriffs, our local police departments better be aware. We're going to go to the weather right now, and the weather is brought to you by our friends at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And, of course, they are the professionals providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. The best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning. The list goes on and on with the professional people they have serving you, your family, and your business. Get a hold of them today. Let them help you. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine going to stick with us for the rest of the week, but maybe some rain showers by this weekend. Here's a look at the weather forecast. Today, mostly sunny skies, looking at a high of 85, a little bit of a breeze. Out of the west at about 10 miles an hour, gusts as high as 23 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly clear skies with a low of about 55. Winds are going to be consistent out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 83 with an overnight low of 54. Friday, mostly sunny skies, high of 90. Now, by Friday night, it looks like a storm is going to be rolling in, bringing along with it some rain showers, thunderstorms, and we are expecting a low of 56 by Saturday and Sunday. This is where the rain is going to come in. About a 70% chance of rain showers throughout the weekend. We are expecting highs in the low 70s. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
There you go, Gina. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And great job every day on our weather. And it's brought to you this hour by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. You know, we've been letting them help us for the last 5-6 years, and they do an excellent job. As I said, all you need to do is get a hold of them today with 2 offices serving you, one at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley, the other at 620 25th Street in Rupert. The professionals with the best in accounting services, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. I didn't get a chance to say this earlier this morning, and I need to get this in real quick. And my dear, dear friend Jimmy Flowers and all of his great friends and folks that are committed to the great big this Saturday, Mini Car Show and Shine. That's going to be at the Cache County Fairgrounds, and it's going to be from 9 till 4. There's not going to be an admittance charge, and there will be a donation container for the Meals on Wheels project. And if you've got an old car that you'd really like to show off, Jimmy and the crew say, come on down to the Cache County Fairgrounds this weekend on Saturday for the Mini Car Show and Shine. So everybody try to be there. Jimmy is going to be on our program tomorrow, and we're going to talk about that. Want to be sure and mention to you our dear friends at Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. Good morning, Curtis and Lorena. You bet these are folks that really, really know electronics. All the cables and the power cords and the television sets from Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs. I've been honored to have them on our program for quite some time. They've got the very best of car audio systems, and they've got all the new models there, and they've got all the video surveillance cameras. I mean, literally, they've got all your electronic needs. I urge you to stop in 421 East Main in Burley. They're open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6. Patterson's Electronics in Burley. What do we got coming up for the rest of the morning on the program? Next hour, and I invited this man back. He was on about 10 days ago. And I could not wait to see if his schedule would be cleared so I could have him back. Alex McFarland, outstanding author and just a real good Christian man. And I wanted to have him on the program this morning to talk about what this total garbage is in America today and how possibly we can overcome it. So he's going to be on at 10:06. And then we're going to talk to Bill Bullard at 10:30, the CEO of RCAF USA, talking about as bad as our cattlemen are having it right now in the United States, we're still importing a lot of foreign beef. Why? We're going to have that coming up in the next hour. Right now, we'll turn it back over to our main studio, and we'll be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back, hour number 3. And Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations, very safe, clean environment, and the best in tires. Stop in and see them today, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, our friends at Greystone Crossing Independent Living. My, we tell you about these folks every day. A beautiful, brand-new location on Alfresco Road. That's 21st Street. And believe me, it's a 12-bedroom home for seniors. A great big part of a family unit. 3 meals a day, snacks, housekeeping, and local transportation. Seniors, this is the place. It's a wonderful place. And great food, too. All you need to do is call 650-4979. Matt and Kelly Wiggins, they'd be happy to show you the entire Greystone Crossing, so please give them a call today, 650-4979. Greystone Crossing, a place where seniors can live the good life with their friends. Want to also urge you to contact my friends at 7K Metals. I'm very, very enthusiastic about silver purchases, and silver, very valuable commodity right now. 7K Metals with Lon Hardy, and you can call him at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. Tell them I told you to call, and they'll tell you all about how you can help yourself build a financial security and future with silver purchases sent right to your home. It's a great saving opportunity and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. Find out about it. Call Lon or Sharon and tell them I told you to call 7K Metals. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple of weeks ago, I had this gentleman on my program, and I only invite people on my program that I like and or can really do a good job in promoting certain aspects of our lifestyle, etc. This man is one of those. He's a religion and culture expert, author, broadcaster, college professor, and international speaker. I didn't ask him what he does in his spare time, and I'm very glad to have him back again this morning. Dr. Alex McFarland, thank you, sir.
Oh, you are so gracious. Thank you for having me back.
Alex, I hope you don't mind if I call you by your first name, but the reason I wanted you back on the program this morning is rather obvious. I mean, I've said for a long time that the turmoil and all the just complete left socialistic ideas that are encroaching like a cancer across America need to be stopped. And the best way to stop them is to get our wranglers dirty on our knees, get down on our knees, and pray to God for some better guidance. What are your thoughts?
Wow. I give you a big amen, my friend. You're exactly right. Think about this. A couple of months ago in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article by a man named Michael Bleckman. And Bleckman was the campaign chair for Robert F. Kennedy's presidential aspirations in 1968. And Bleckman wrote this article in the Wall Street Journal and said liberalism isn't what it used to be. And he, certainly is, no Baptist preacher or conservative wingnut. He said he's a lifelong Democrat, but he said he doesn't even recognize the Democrat Party anymore, and that not only could Robert F. Kennedy not be a Democrat today, LBJ and JFK couldn't be Democrats today, because, and think about this, we would, conservative Republicans would think of, JFK and Robert F. Kennedy as, arch liberals. I actually have got friends in the Northeast that knew Ted Kennedy, and I would argue Ted Kennedy, as liberal as he was, wouldn't even know the Democrat Party of 2020. And so that's why, our constitutional republic really does hang in the balance if we keep going on the track that the progressive liberal, hyper liberal Democrats are trying to take us on. The lawlessness of the last week is going to be what we'll see more and more of if we don't recover not only, of course, God and morality, but just a sense of a representative republic based on moral principles. We're going to see this country further unravel.
Alex, I sat and I've watched every single newscast, every single video, every single newspaper story I've read that I can get my hands on, and television and radio. I've tried to keep myself very well informed as to what's going on all across the United States. I have various sources that help me on my program, get people on to talk about the various aspects of what's occurring. And right now, with the coronavirus shutting down this country and basically crippling it and killing our economy for the last 3 months, and now this to where it could be even a much more of a crippler, if you will. I don't see how we're going to come out of this. And the people that are running and burning and looting and just acting like animals, evidently they've never been exposed to a religious family background or knowing the principles of right and wrong through God and the Bible. Evidently they just haven't been exposed.
Exactly. Even Dennis Rodman, as flaky and way out as Dennis Rodman is, 2 days ago, Dennis Rodman made a plea for everybody to rein in their vandalism and looting, and he said, we're not animals. And he used a curse word I'm not going to use, but he said, come on, people, we're not animals. But people are acting like animals, and, again, let me say what an honor it is to be on with you, and you are such a breath of fresh air, and I just, I thank the Lord that you are broadcasting, my friend, because you make perfect sense, and you make such wonderful points. But I think about this. Look, there are people like Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Obama. There are people that have a vested interest in the country being in a sense of chaos. And let me say, it's one thing to disagree ideologically. It's one thing to say, okay, let's have a respectful disagreement. I'll hear your side, you hear my side. But we're beyond that. And folks, you've got to understand this. There are people in high places like Nancy Pelosi and liberals that are in the hip pocket of big money, international, domestic and foreign. George Soros, Russia and China billionaires. And look, there are people that are acting with malice. It's one thing to disagree. It's another thing to maliciously consent to the harm of another person. I want to say this. The Democrat Party is acting in bad faith, folks. The one shred of hope I have that God is not completely done with America is the fact that Donald Trump is in the White House. And I've met the president a couple of times, been on a couple of phone calls with the president, the vice president, with faith leaders, met the vice president. I'm telling you, we deserve what we're getting. We do. We've been a prodigal nation drifting from God for many decades. But I want to say this. I do have a shred of hope because there are some Christians praying. I do have a shred of hope because Winston Churchill 2.0 is in the White House. But to every one of your listeners, I'm saying, come November, we had better pray that the Spirit of God would restrain evil. We need to pray that we have an honest ballot count. And we need to pray that Joe Biden, who is an evil man, I want to say this, Joe Biden is evil. He said there's no place in the Democrat Party for someone who's not pro-choice. I mean, look, anybody that would consent to the murder of a baby, I wouldn't put anything past them. And so, folks, the Oval Office and both houses of Congress must be populated by leaders that believe in the point of law, moral truth, God and country.
You know, Alex, I'm sitting here and I'm absorbing every word that you're saying, and I totally agree with it. But we've got some other things, items, if you will, that need to be addressed and changed with their personality. Number one, our school system. We are letting our kids be indoctrinated from kindergarten all the way through the university system that America's bad and America's evil and there is no God, there is no hereafter, there's nothing to look forward to. Grab what you want right now. They're being indoctrinated with that. And then also the lack of backbone by our churches themselves. They are not going on the offensive and fighting the evils in society. They're cowering in the corner. That's my opinion.
Well, you're right. You're right. And, you know, we need some ministers that have some courage. And, well, let me say this. I want to talk very briefly about the church, then I want to speak about public education. You know, during the 2016 election, and I was doing some speaking for the RNC and promoting Donald Trump, and I had a number of ministers really take me to task and say, you know, Alex, you know, I didn't get the memo. I thought our home was in heaven. Why are you trying to build some utopia on earth? And I said, well, look, have you not read City of God by Augustine? Augustine said, sure, if you're a believer, your home is in heaven, the city of God. But as long as we're alive, we have an obligation to the city of man.
That's right.
We are to be salt and light and to be a force for good. And the Bible is an intensely political book. I mean, it talks not only about the condemnation of evil leaders, but it talks about the promotion of the good. And we have the prosperous, marginally safe, free America that we still have because, everyone from Columbus, and it really goes back to Leif Erikson discovering the North American continent. Leif Erikson was a devout Christian, by the way. One of Leif Erikson's foremost biographers is a friend of mine. Leif Erikson was a Christian. I believe Columbus was a Christian. From William Bradford and the Plymouth colonies to the founders to, Franklin himself. By the way, Franklin was the oldest member at the Constitutional Convention in 1787. He was 74, and the oldest person there, certainly one of the wisest. And he said that ignorance opens the door to tyranny. And regarding public education, I mean, so many young people that are the products of public school, K through 12, and public universities, they've been really groomed to hate America. But let me say this. I'm going to throw a question to you. And again, what an honor to speak with you. There's a renowned economist named Robert J. Gordon. He's at Northwestern University. He correctly predicted the recession of the 70s. He correctly predicted the prosperity of the 90s. And he's a brilliant economist. He said this, for really about 3,000 to 4,000 years, the amount of wealth in the world didn't grow. I mean, there were dynasties and there were peasants. But suddenly, in the late 1700s, up through the late 20th century, in the Western world, something happened really for the first time in history that people not only could put food on the table, but actual wealth began to grow, the creation of family wealth, generational wealth. Now, what happened in the West in the late 1700s through the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century began to really explode in the early to mid-20th century? What happened that caused, for the first time in history, individuals to be able to not only subsist but create wealth?
Well, I'll just answer
capitalism in America.
I'll just answer that question with my own set of beliefs.
Based on morality and God, whereby you were allowed to plot your own destiny and keep what you earn.
Exactly. And
we stand to lose it all.
Absolutely. Alex, I totally agree that my forefathers, your forefathers, they had an appreciation for what God gave them. And they got down on bended knee, and they went to church on Sunday, and they had the gatherings during the week, and they were so thankful for what they had as plentiful bounty that was provided for them. They worked hard, and it seemed like God smiled on them and gave them more. And now we're throwing it all in the gutter.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say, and I believe in education. I mean, I've given the last 20 years of my adult life to education. But many of the college professors at universities, they're losers.
Yes.
I mean, look, they went to school on grant money. They've got tenured positions. They pontificate and prattle in secular classrooms to impressionable young people. They've never worked a job, where they've had to make a payroll. They've never had to, create income and create jobs. And listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I mean, I've been so blessed, but 25 years ago, I had $58 in the shirt on my back, literally. Came from an exceptionally poor farm family in the South. We rode to church on Sunday in a 67 Buick with the floorboards rusted out. I could literally look down and see the road. But I had a good, hard-working, honest mom and dad. And look, I know, believe it or not, I know what it is to go to bed hungry. I know what it is to scrape pennies together to pay college tuition. And listen, I don't mean to, poor me, I'm very blessed. But I know also if you work hard, live right, say your prayers, and live within your means, you can begin to make progress and dig out of a hole. And one thing our nation has got to learn, and it needs to begin with our government, is we've got to learn to live within our means. By the way, when we're talking about praying, we need to pray for the defeat of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. She needs to, grow up a little bit and learn some truth and work a job.
Amen.
But my goodness gracious, the last place she needs to be is in a position of leadership. Socialism, Margaret Thatcher said, socialism is great till you run out of other people's money.
You know, Alex, it's such a pleasure to have you on this program, and your last comment is oh so true. I commented about AOC yesterday on the show. Here is a woman that Joe Biden has pointed a finger at and said, yes, if I'm elected as president, I will appoint you as one of my top energy czars. This woman hasn't got the capability to understand whether she's plugging her car in or her toaster. She has no comprehension of what's going on. And to point her to a higher elevated position in politics is just nothing more than doomsday.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's insanity. Remember a year ago, AOC said that we need to have airplanes obsolete within a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, but you know what's sad is, I mean, think about the message that you can share in leadership. You can tell people what they want to hear, or you can tell people what they need to hear.
Right.
And what the Democrat Party would do well to do is to say to the millions of people, you know, stop promising pie in the sky and money for nothing. Say, look, you know, we'll grant the inner cities are a tough place, but here's the thing: don't have sex like a barnyard animal and impregnate every, you know, woman that you see. Listen, the best way, besides God and spiritual principles, but the best way to emotional stability, happiness, and even economic prosperity, and I mean, volumes of research show this, the best way for stability, happiness, health, prosperity is through this wonderful entity that's foreign to most Democrats. It's called family. So, heterosexual monogamy, a man and a woman.
Absolutely.
Get married, stay married, raise good kids. And let me say this, it takes a little bit of moral courage to say, this is right, that is wrong. And part of the reason that the Democrats really don't have the moral courage or the moral fortitude to say that sex outside of marriage is wrong, promiscuity, licentiousness is wrong. See, here's the thing: when your whole business model is based on the killing of unborn humans, all other moral precepts fall. I mean, you know, if you're a bank robber, you probably don't have a lot of conviction about stealing a piece of bubble gum. You know, if you're a mass murderer, you're probably not going to feel too bad about cutting somebody off in traffic. And part of the reason that the Democrats, they've got failed economic policies, failed immigration policies, failed education, national defense, their policies, it's a worldview of failure, is because, listen, if you don't have any respect for human life, then you're not going to have any respect for truth about life.
Amen.
In all other contexts.
Amen. Alex, I've only got a minute left in this segment. Real quick, last time I didn't get a chance to highlight some of your books, like The God You Thought You Knew, Moral Decay, and 10 Issues That Divide Christians. Quickly, where can people find your books?
Well, thank you. Just if you go on Amazon.com and Google my name, you'll find all the books I've written. And let me just say, my website, alexmcfarland.com. Folks, I want to come speak in your city. email me. We'll put something together. Let's save our country. God bless you all.
Alex, God bless you, and thank you for the time that you've committed to come on the program this morning, and please know that I'll invite you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. God bless you.
All right, sir. That man is going to become a real recurrent guest on this program, and I really appreciate all of his remarks. Alex McFarland, and thank you for being on the show this morning. I want to remind you that every Monday at 10:30 we have Vicky's Country Garden and Gardening with Miss Vicky, and I greatly appreciate all the time she spends telling us about how to have a better garden and take care of our lawns and everything else. Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 West of Paul, 438-5663. And the lovely Vicky will be here on Mondays for Vicky's Country Garden. Don't forget, too, the Bennett boys are going to have a great big sale this Saturday at 11 o'clock in Rupert at 275 North, 579 East. I could go through all the directions. I will confuse you. Just look for the signs. Bennett Boys Auction Service. Joe Bennett and the crew, and the number to call, 539-0111. Shoemaker Estate Sale. Don't forget that. Tractor, loader, farm equipment, trailers, and please, your friends and neighbors are going to be right there at this sale. Don't miss it. And lots of antique furniture and appliances. All of this at the Shoemaker Estate Sale this Saturday at 11 o'clock in Rupert, 275 North, 579 East. Managed by the Bennett Boys Auction Service. No sale too big, no sale too small. The Bennett Boys, they sell them all. Absolutely. Real quick, before I turn it back over to our main studio, I want to remind you, too, about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Jeff's going to be on the program with us tomorrow, and they're getting ready, right now, for you to come on in and pick out your Father's Day gift at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. May I suggest all the recliners. Take Dad along, take him by the elbow, and say, have at it, Dad. Pick one out that you like. Oh, my goodness, what a great selection of recliners. And all the mattresses and the bedroom sets, and, of course, all the carpeting and the spring flooring specials, along with the sofa love seats. It's all there for you at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Right now, we send it back over to our main studio. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. Quickly, I want to remind you, too, about Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Hayburn. The business is for sale. Great business opportunity, lock, stock, and barrel, turnkey business, ready for you. All you need to do is call Doug and talk to him, 878-4991. 878-4991. As I said, this is a turnkey business, beautiful shop, all the equipment, everything, and Doug will train the new buyer all the business. Be sure and contact him today. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Hayburn, 878-4991. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I'm very honored to have this man back on my program. He is what we would call a straight shooter. He's going to tell it like it is, and that is the CEO of RCAF USA, Bill Bullard. How are you this morning?
Doing great. Thank you, Present.
You know, Bill, you got to help me understand something. I'm an old man, and I still do not understand that at a time when our ranchers and producers in the cattle industry are really suffering and trying to get markets for their cattle, why are we importing beef at almost high numbers?
Well, not only are we importing beef at a time when our own producers can't get access to their own market, so these imports are, in fact, displacing the American ranchers' access to the domestic market. But not only that, but we're importing beef from high-risk countries. We're importing beef from countries like Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Namibia, Africa. Those countries continue to combat foot and mouth disease, the most contagious disease known to cattle and hogs and deer. And so the reason that we're doing this is twofold, and USDA has told us this. Number one, when we entered the Uruguay round of the World Trade Organization agreements, and that's what formed the World Trade Organization, we were compelled as a nation to cede much of our sovereignty, including our right to prevent imported products from countries that continue to harbor a disease risk. And so we began to systematically reduce and relax our import restrictions for the sole purpose of trying to facilitate more imports. So the USDA's mission had changed from that of protecting the health and safety of the American livestock industry to that of trying to facilitate imports to be in compliance with the World Trade Organization. So this is what globalization brings you. And COVID-19 has now shown us that that's extremely dangerous, that we should be preventing the introduction of these diseases, not thinking that we can control them after they enter our borders. And COVID-19 shows that we are ill-prepared to combat a highly contagious disease. And it's arguable that foot and mouth disease is more contagious to livestock than the COVID-19 is to humans, and that's because the transmission routes are broader. In the foot and mouth disease, for example, it could be carried on the wind for up to 40 miles. It could be carried on the product, on the fresh beef, and shipped to the United States. So this is a huge problem, and it has to be a wake-up call. Citizens need to be outraged that the government is allowing the imports of beef from countries that have not yet fully eradicated very dangerous and highly contagious diseases.
You know, I'm going to be very blunt when I say this, Bill. You've been on my program enough to know that I'm blunt. But who were the complete idiots that formed these treaties that would hurt our American producers and literally open the door for inferior products to go to the American consumer? Who were these stupid people?
Well, look to Congress. It was Congress, because for the past quarter century, for the past 25 years, we've been pursuing this globalization mantra, and we've been pursuing global regulation, global governance, and we've been ceding our sovereignty to it. And only now, under this administration, have we begun to pull back. Has there been some meaningful criticisms on the World Trade Organization's continual practice of overreaching and attempting to undermine laws that are passed in the United States under the U.S. Constitution. We've been on the wrong track as a nation for the past 25 years, and it's our elected officials who brought us here, and it must be them that lead us in a new direction. And so we, as the citizens, though, we have to be the driver. We've got to push them to reverse the course that we're on, because it has severely weakened our economy, and it has certainly caused tremendous damage to the U.S. livestock sector.
Now, I'm sure, as I say this with tongue in cheek, that we have protection activities in our regard that would label all the beef from Africa or other inferior countries and let us know as consumers that they may not be buying the best of the product. I'm sure that we've got a country of origin labeling, right?
Well, for everything except beef and pork. We have it for fruits and vegetables. We have it for fish and shellfish. We have it for macadamia nuts, peanuts, pecans. We have it for ginseng. We have it for chicken. We have it for lamb. And we have it for goat meat. But we do not have country of origin labeling on beef and pork or dairy products. And that's why we put the petition out on the Internet calling on Congress and the President to immediately require all beef, pork, and dairy products sold in America to be labeled as to its origin so consumers could choose where they want their food produced. And we have over 390,000 citizens that have signed that petition thus far, and we only started that a little over 30 days ago on April 23rd. And that's at www.demandUSAbeef.com. And people can sign up and demonstrate to Congress and the President that they want to know where their food comes from.
Bill, who are the money people? Who are the power players? And I sound a little naive and vague on this, but really, when you get right down to brass tacks, every congressman and every senator, they're going to go home and they're going to sit down at their kitchen table, and their lovely wife is going to serve dinner, and there's a beefsteak, and I'm sure that those guys wouldn't want to have some steak sitting on their plate that went through the swamps and the mosquitoes of Africa. I mean, why? Where are the money people that are creating this problem?
Well, they're the same global entities that help the United States pursue the misguided globalization process. They're the multinational corporations, some of the largest and most powerful economically and politically corporations in the world. And they include the meat processing industry like Tyson and Cargill, JBS, and National Beef. Those corporations do not want mandatory country of origin labeling. They have a very powerful trade association known as the North American Meat Institute. And that institute has been lobbying Congress hard for many, many years to ensure that we're not differentiated the imported product, because that cuts into their profit margins, and they do not want that to happen.
So the consumer, help me on this a little bit, the consumer really doesn't have anything to stand on when they go into a grocery store and they tell the produce and the meat department, we want only American beef. I mean, they don't have any power, do they?
Well, they don't, and unfortunately, the grocer doesn't know. And the grocer will likely say, well, it's got to be USA because it has a USDA safety inspection sticker on it. But that USDA safety inspection sticker is on every meat product that crosses the U.S. border. So they put it on Uruguayan, Costa Rican, Nicaraguan, Honduras, Namibia, Africa. All of that beef is labeled just the same as USA beef. It all has a USDA inspection sticker on it. But it's actually worse than that, because under the USDA's new mission of trying to facilitate more imports and to benefit the multinational corporations, they passed a policy that says that an imported beef product from Costa Rica, for example, can come into the border, and to cross the border, it must be labeled. So our U.S. Customs and Border Inspection agents know exactly where that beef came from. But after it enters the United States, the USDA treats it as a domestic product. So if a meat packer brings it through a processing plant and takes it out of the box that it was in when it crossed the border and puts it in a new box, they could put a USA label on the new box. So consumers are being terribly deceived by the current policy that is continued to be driven by the globalization efforts. So we've kind of taken the position that USDA must not have gotten the memo that globalization is ended, and we need to start putting America first.
You know, I just don't understand, and I'm friends with so many people in the cattle business, and I just don't understand why they are having to suffer. They have no place to go with their raised beef that is right now the only source of income that they have to stay afloat. And I just can't imagine what's going on in this country to where politicians can go to bed at night and put their head on the pillow with a clear thought and sweet dreams, knowing that they're crucifying and killing American producers.
Well, and that's why the American citizen really needs to engage and start hounding their 2 U.S. senators and their representatives and even their local state representatives in order to change this process, because Congress is just being inundated by lobbyists. And here's another example. I said it was the meat packers themselves that were preventing the Congress from allowing labels to be put on beef, or requiring, in fact, to be put on beef. Well, the meat packers are very smart, and they've infiltrated what used to be producer groups. We used to have the National Cattlemen's Association that represented producers. But about 25 years ago, they merged with the packers. So the packers have infiltrated what used to be a producer group, but Congress doesn't know that. They still treat the National Cattlemen's Beef Association as if it were a producer group, and that organization is one of So they have set the table, if you will, and they've put all the pieces that they need in order to preserve their self-interest to maximize their profits. And they do that at the expense of the American cattle producer across the United States.
Let me ask you, Bill, very bluntly, give me an answer on this, because I know you're a tough guy. I know that you stand up for RCAF, and I know you stand up for the cattle producers. Have you ever had the occasion to sit down and go eyeball to eyeball with the NCBA and ask them these questions and literally back them into a corner, giving an answer as to why they do what they do?
You know, I have met directly with the NCBA in the NCBA offices in Washington, D.C., and they have their talking sheets that their leaders have provided them, and they don't deviate from them. So they continue to espouse the position that benefits the packers while simultaneously claiming that they represent the producers. And, you know, if we look at their reaction to the COVID-19 outbreak, their reaction was silent for several weeks. And then when they did come out, they only came out after the USDA said we're going to expand the investigation. And the first step that they did was call for an investigation, which is not what we need right now. What we need is to restructure and reform the marketplace so producers have access to the market, number one, and have the ability to earn a competitive income from the marketplace, number two. And we have neither of those, and that organization, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, has been reluctant to do anything that would in any way upset the multinational meat packers.
Bill, do the NCBA members, of which there's a lot of them right here in my neighborhood, do they really understand what's going on or not going on and take an appraisal as to whether they should be members or not?
Well, you know, and they're very good people, hardworking cattle farmers and ranchers all across the United States, but they, too, have been inundated with the information and materials from the National Cattlemen's Association the National Cattlemen's Beef Association that comes from the packers, and so they walked the walk of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association without fully realizing what negative impact it's been having on our industry. You know, we've lost over 500,000 cattle producers just in half a lifetime. Our herd size has shrunk just since we entered the North American Free Trade Agreement and remains about 3 million mother cows fewer today than it did 25 years ago. And we are displacing our domestic production with imports. And yet that organization and its members don't see any problem with that. They don't view that as a problem. They say, well, we just have to get bigger and better, or we have to begin branding our beef. And every step that they take does not solve the problem. So they need to take a thorough, probing, and critical look at the policies of that organization and determine whether or not they should continue supporting it. It's critical right now that they do that because their livelihoods are on the line.
One final thought, Bill, honestly, from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very, very poor, 10 being better and good, what's the future of the livestock industry?
We're at a crossroads right now. I'm going to say we're at a 6 or 7. We still have the critical mass to sustain and maintain a competitive marketplace, but we're quickly losing the critical mass of the infrastructure we need to do that. And by that I mean the number of actual cattle producers, the number of auction yards, we've lost 25% of those, the number of feedlots, we've lost 75% of those in 25 years, and the number of packers themselves, we've lost over 40 or hundreds of packers actually in less than half a lifetime, and 45 in just the last 25 years. So we are dismantling the infrastructure that we need in order for this industry to be successful. If we reverse course today, I would say it's a number 10. But we're not there because we still have the NCBA and the meat packers fighting us to prevent us from getting the reforms needed in Congress. But hopefully producers are now taking a critical look at that and will help us by getting on the phone and calling their members of Congress and saying, we need a change and we need it now.
Absolutely. This gentleman has been on my program many times in the past. He will be on in the future. The CEO of RCAF USA, Bill Bullard. God bless you, sir. Stay safe, stay well. Come back soon.
Thank you very much, Zeb. Goodbye.
All right, sir. Very interesting comments from Bill Bullard. And, boy, I tell you what, I'll do and say anything on this program to support the beef industry. Right now, I'm going to support a little bit about, great eating. Have you been to Edith's Cafe? My goodness sakes, you know where they're located at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, right across from the golf course. I don't care if you go in there for lunch. I don't care if you go in there in the evening for a great special dinner. My goodness, the steaks and everything else delicious. But whatever you do and whenever you go in, you're going to enjoy great food. Great food serving you. And they also do catering, too. They're located, again, 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, Edith's Cafe, and they're open Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 9. Do yourself a favor and say, Martha, don't cook tonight. We're going to Edith's Cafe. Boy, it is good eating. You stop in there and see those folks today. Right now, let's go to the weather forecast before I run out of time again. And the weather brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew all over at 331 North Road, Jerome. You better believe that the telephone number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Oh, yeah. Check out all the delicious meats, all the marinated pork ribs, and, of course, the hams and the tri-tip and all the different bacons. My goodness. And the bratwurst. I love the brats. You're going to have a great time and great eating at Scarro's Meats. Absolutely. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine going to stick with us for the rest of the week, but maybe some rain showers by this weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Today, mostly sunny skies, looking at a high of 85, a little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 23 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly clear skies with a low of about 55. Winds are going to be consistent out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 83 with an overnight low of 54. Friday, mostly sunny skies, high of 90. Now, by Friday night, it looks like a storm is going to be rolling in, bringing along with it some rain showers, thunderstorms, and we are expecting a low of 56 by Saturday and Sunday. This is where the rain is going to come in. About a 70% chance of rain showers throughout the weekend. We are expecting highs in the low 70s. That's a look at your weather for Zeb Durant.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody this morning and this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Don Scarrow and the crew. Hey, Don, come on over and visit. Bring some brats with you. Absolutely delicious meats. As a matter of fact, their tagline is changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarro's Meats. Okay, let's take a look at our calendar of events for tomorrow. Excuse me. We've got an open forum from 8 to 9 in the morning, and then at 9:06 the Chamber Report with Penny Main, and we're going to be visiting with Nick over to Elite Fitness at 9:17. Phil Kerpen is going to be on the air at 9:30. Very interesting guest, talking about what's going on economically in our country. And then, of course, we've got our business salute, Cassia County School Days. And then at the very end, we're going to talk to Jimmy Flowers tomorrow about the great big car show coming up this weekend on Saturday from 9 to 4 at the Cassia County Fairgrounds, the mini car show and shine. Don't anybody forget that. It's going to be a lot of fun. One day only this Saturday, June 6th at the Cassia County Fairgrounds. That's going to wrap it up and put it back in the box for me today. Thank you for all your calls and your interesting conversation. And we always wrap up the show by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the four words that mean the most to us: in God we trust. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch. Stay safe, stay well. We'll see you then.